Failing a test, training to succeed, and a new character appears. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's reaction and review of Wistoria, Sword Season 2, Episode 7. Yo, what's up? Welcome back. Welcome if you're new. My name is Mark, and today we're talking about Wistoria, Sword Season 2, Episode 7. If you want to see my reaction, you check it out on Patreon. Link in the description down below. And a big comment, just become a member. Check it out. And if you join Patreon, you get exclusives. Shout outs and stuff like that. Subscribe, like the video, hype the video, all that jazz. And as always, this episode was really good. So good in fact I took more notes, like 2.5 pages if not more. So we have a lot to talk about. Now as always, make sure you hit the like button again. Make sure you do that. And of course, grab your snacks, grab your drinks, grab your notebooks, and let's talk about the episode. So first off, after everything is all said and done, we get a 2 or 3 minute recap, which honestly, a little long for my liking, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna complain about it too much. But when it's all said and done, Will actually gets scouted by all the factions, except for the Lightning faction, because I didn't realize that the Lightning faction, Thunder faction, whatever it's called, they didn't actually scout him. I was not paying attention to that, but everyone else scouted him, and so apparently this is an unprecedented move, and which is pretty cool, especially because he's not like a multi-magic person or anything like that. He's just a dude with a sword. Which is just funny to think about. A dude with a sword gets scouted by a bunch of magic factions. Anyways, I also said once this happened that he was like getting scouted by all of them. I wrote this down as well as what I said, that the director of the institute was not going to take a lying down. I didn't know his name at the time, but he's the director of the Magic Institute or whatever it's called. His name is Kreutz, by the way. And he's not going to take a lying down. He did not take a lying down, bro. Instead, he was like, yo, I object. And instead, Will, you're going to have to do this. Because Elfaria chose him, but then before Will could say anything, the director was like, yo, nuh-uh, I disagree. And so he proposes a test. Because Elfaria is like, Will use magic. Did you not see? Were you watching? And he said he did see. But then he spit some truth, which was that Will, basically, technically, he didn't use magic in the sense, like, I wrote down that technically, in Kreutz's defense, Will is kind of dependent on someone else's magic. Did he really use magic? That's what I asked as well. And so, like, technically, Kreutz isn't exactly wrong, per se. It's a matter of perspective, I think. And so instead, he's like, yo, here's a test for Will. He has to defeat these, oozes. Not sure how to pronounce that one. But, the Institute made the magic snakes for the purpose of suppressing the dwarves, which is pretty cool. Well, okay. The fact that they made them is pretty cool. What's not cool is the whole suppressing the dwarves thing. Obviously, that's not cool. But, like, the actual fact that they made them, that's pretty cool. And here's a question. I asked this later on, but the Earth faction, are those dwarves or not? I swear to God, the Earth faction people, they kind of look like dwarves to me. I could be ignorant and not realize that they're just regular Razants or humans or whatever, but they're dwarves, right? I have to know, because I had also said that while Will, he's free to choose Elfaria, I would have immediately chosen the Earth faction because dwarves are cool. Assuming those are dwarves, I think dwarves are cool. I'd love to meet a dwarf and just hang out with one. That sounds cool, especially because they can drink almost as well as I can. Or vice versa, actually. I can probably drink almost as well as they can, maybe. That's not... I'm going on a tangent here. But anyways, are the Earth faction dwarves, or do they just happen to look like dwarves? Let me know in the comments down below. But with that said, the Wars oozes, the magic snakes, I'm gonna call them magic snakes from now on, because it's funnier. They can only be killed by magic and not might. And Will learned that the hard way, unfortunately, that he actually can't kill them. Even their cores are made of the same liquid that they are. So he's like, yo, what the fuck do I do? But then I will say, I did write down good on those two, the like 2 guys that were like the lackeys for Sion. Good on them for trying to help Will, even if they were stopped by the director guy. Cause like, it's clear as day to me at least that they are changing as people slowly. I mean, granted, it took being in life or death for them, but the fact remains that they are changing as people. And so, he fails eventually, but then Kreutz stops it because like if it kept going on, it just nothing would change really at that point. And so instead, Kreutz goes on a tangent about everything, and then he says that he wants to keep Will in the Institute. And according to the fire guy, Carrion, he wants that Kreutz wants to make Will into a lab animal and turn the power of the 5th element within Will to a force for good or something like that. They want to utilize the 5th element, which, okay, scientifically it makes sense why they would want to do that, because if more people can use that 5th element in some way, the more helpful and beneficial that would be to society. But morally, obviously, it's not exactly right, turning Will into a lab rat. But like, logically, it's understandable why they would want to do this, because they want that 5th element is incredibly strong, and if they can repurpose that, make it more widespread, then that can only have benefits to society. But also, it could be in turn turn into a weapon against them, obviously. So it's like there's a fine line. Like, on the one hand, what I'm saying is I can see both sides to the situation. I can see both. I get it. On both sides. I'm on Will's side, obviously, but I can at least understand where Kreutz and them are coming from. Although Kreutz seems more like a guy who just wants to experiment on people, so I can't really see where he's coming from exactly, if that's the kind of personality that he has. Or he could just be very into like science-y experiments and stuff. Anyways, obviously, as we know, Alfaria, she's not taking that line down, bro. She's about to snap. And I mean, like, yeah, not surprising. Because, like, they are talking about turning the guy that she's in love with into a lab rat. Like, yeah, I'm not surprised that she almost snapped. I also wrote down, originally, I assumed that Kreutz was a magic purist, and I still think he is. But he also seems like a tower purist, if that makes sense. Like, he seems like a guy who, like, magic, first and foremost, is the priority for him, but then the tower is right up there, too. Followed by, like, the greater good and everything else. That's the vibe that I get from him. I could be wrong. But then, Clarity comes in, and she's just like, yo, hold on. Let's calm down for a minute. There will be another bloom, so you can put your debates on hold until then. Because apparently, well, not apparently, we know this, like, a lot of people died during the Terminalis event or whatever. And so there's another bloom to regain their losses of manpower, and it'll be in 1 week. Which, yeah, not surprising. Okay, move on to next page. Oh yeah, I wrote a lot more on this page. So, Clary says that the world is counting on the Grim Generation. And she also, she basically defends Will and says that he still has a chance. And then she says to everyone else, Kreutz included, the Tower's motto is prove your worth. And that's what Will's gonna do. And so with that, they all disappear. I also wrote down, Clarity is fun. She's such a fun character. And then I also wrote down, is the Earth faction comprised of dwarves? Because we see them clear as day and they look like dwarves to me. But they could just be humans that unfortunately did not grow as big as other humans did. Like, but I think they're dwarves. I really hope they're dwarves. Anyways, I also wrote down that magic tech is really cool. The way they're like, the platforms are flying up. I don't know if it's tech actually or just magic floating them up. I think it's cool. I always like how magic can be used in like technology and in different functions than just fighting and combat and stuff like that. So like, I hope we get to see more of that, especially because like the whole Institute thing they can't not show more of the Institute, right? And what they can do. And then after all said and done, Will falls down, cries, laughs, cries and laughs, basically. And he says it's funny how whenever he is about to succeed, he always gets knocked down. And I wrote, that's gotta suck. Because it does, bro. Like, he takes one step forward, but then he's knocked like 10 steps back, bro. But I also wrote down that he doesn't give up. He's ready to go. Raring to go, even. And where am I now? Oh, and then moving on from that, we get to see Thor Zeus and his guy, Gil, right? That's the name that was said to the guy following Thor Zeus. I almost wrote down this Thor and forgot the Zeus part. Thor Zeus. Because Gil was like, I'm surprised you didn't also scout him, man. Lord Thor Zeus. But then Thor Zeus like, clearly you don't know me. Because he wants people who drags themselves up from rock bottom. He thinks they are stronger. And yeah, it makes sense because they had to go through hell to get to where they are. So yeah, they are probably going to be a lot stronger. And so that tells me that he's going to scout Will after the second bloom. And honestly, I'd be down for Will joining any faction other than Elfaria's. Like, as I've mentioned this before, and I'm a broken record at this point, I don't particularly care about Elfaria. On the one hand, yeah, I'm happy that Will and her are happy and all that. But I don't particularly care about Will joining Elfaria's faction more than I'd care. I care more about him joining like the Thor Zeus's faction, Earth faction, stuff like that. So I think that'd be cool. And there's just more to it. I think it's more interesting if they divert expectations and have him join a different faction than Elfaria's. Cause like, yeah, Elfaria and Will, they're endgame, obviously. That's the most obvious thing, unfortunately for me. I can tell. I'm not naive. I can tell that they're endgame. But just because they're endgame doesn't mean Will has to join her faction. There's nothing that says they can't be in different factions and then still fall in love together and like be together and all that. So, I don't know, man. I hope he kind of joins Thor Zeus or the Earth factions or even the Elf faction, honestly. I like Wigno. I'm not sure I want him to join the Fire faction personally. But yeah. Moving on. We also learned from the intermission, because this is when the intermission comes in. It tells us that Mr. Donan stole the Whist gem to make Will's sword. And he's so valid for that, man. I'm glad he did. Like, yeah. Valid. Will would put it to better use than they will. And so moving on from that. We get to see Will studying because he's the book learner. And he's cramming it in. And he says that basically if he can't cast magic, that doesn't mean he can't use magical energy, and that the Whist power proves that, and he's not wrong, it does. Because, like, as long as he can work around it, I think he'll be in better shape than trying to do something brand new. And then we finally get to meet Emma Clever. Well, finally get to meet, like we haven't seen her before. We've met her before, I'm pretty sure. And she invites Will to join them all on going to a dungeon for training. And like, that's cool. But then, unfortunately for Will, Julius comes in and he's like, no. And he says, playing at friends is not what Will needs. He needs to get control over Whist, so Will's gonna be training with Julius. And that's that apparently. And then Julius and Will is surprised and like very surprised, but then Julius, he lays it on thick of a lie, and he says that like he like cozies up to Will and says that just like everyone else, I think of you as part of the team, and he offers a ice rose and everything. Like, I gotta give Julius credit. He's willing to do just about anything to succeed, even prostrate himself like that. And unfortunately, Will believes him. And the only reason, I guarantee you, the only reason Will believes him is because Will, unfortunately, was alone for so long that he's not used to people being nice to him and happy that he's a part of the team, part of a team. And so he's just like over the moon, stars in his eyes, just so happy. And it's sweet, sad, bittersweet. It's bittersweet, and becomes even more bittersweet when Julius reveals to us that he's gonna like give Will a push and like earn points back in Alfaria's book. And like, damn man, poor Will, man. I feel bad for him, but I also don't, because at least, as I wrote down later on, at least Will is happy, because Will is genuinely happy. Like, that's that. I'm happy for him. And so then they start training, of course, and I will say, I wrote down, at least Julius is taking the training seriously. Like, yeah, this is all in an effort to get to, like, become acknowledged by Alfaria, but he is taking it seriously because he has to. Granted, he has to take it seriously so that Will can actually improve, but the fact that he is taking it seriously, I do appreciate. And I also wrote down that he is a surprisingly good teacher, because he says that Will should focus on anchoring the magical energy. Now, he said a lot of stuff, but my takeaway from this, and I could be wrong, so fill me in, let me know in the comments down below if I got this wrong or not, but the way I interpreted what Julia said is to store the magical energy that he gets constantly and make calling on it second nature for battle. Like day, night, it's sort of like how, here's an analogy that something I can connect to. Demon Slayer. Season, is it the Hashira training arc, I think? Or something. It's either the Hashira training arc or before that, but there's a point where Tanjiro, main character, hopefully you know who he is. I'm not going to give a history lesson on Demon Slayer, that'd take way too long. But he has to like practice like some kind of like constant breathing, as it's called, and like day and night, make it become second nature. And so I think it's before the Hashira training arc, actually. Anyways, it's similar to that. That's the vibe I'm getting from how Julius explained this to Will. So that's cool, if that's what he means. And then Julius follows up with, you can only accomplish so much in a week. And I also interpreted the next stuff that he said as, focus on what you can do, not what you might be able to do. So like, we know, based on the fact that the power of Whis, that Will can control, would practice magical energy. What we don't know is whether or not he can like do more than that, like control, like use magic somehow or something. Like, focus on what you know you can do, not what you might be able to do. That's how I interpreted that. And then finally we get to see a new character. At the end, she's watching the training between the two, and I threw out the crackpot theory that that she's like Headmistress Cauldron but in a younger form. I don't know why, that was the vibe I got immediately from her. But that's probably wrong. If I'm somehow right, I should get a lottery ticket if I'm somehow right on that one. But I asked the question, who is she? Because her hair and eyes are unique. Her hair is red and blue, or red and blue, and red and blue eyes. Or yeah, red and blue, red on one side, blue on the other. I love her design, but I don't trust her. I don't even know who she is, but I don't trust her. I also don't trust Headmistress Cauldron after she supposedly tampered with Will's memories. Speaking of, I asked this earlier in the reaction. What the fuck did she actually mess with in his memories then? Because he remembers the power. He remembers everything he did. Did they like erase like the fact that Finn was there and jump-started the power? I don't know. I don't know what she erased, but I am curious as to what she actually messed with. And that is where I'm going to wrap everything up here, because I have talked about everything I want to talk about. Oh, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I am genuinely curious what your thoughts are on any of the stuff that I've said, as well as any of the theories that I put out, questions that I asked. Let me know what your thoughts are, because if you it helps me a lot when you engage and like answer questions, stuff like that. I always enjoy that. and I always take notes about whatever people say, so helps me out a lot. And of course, you can check out the Patreon down below for the full-length reaction. Just check it out over there. You get a shout out if you join a Patreon. At the beginning or end of every single one of my videos. The link will be in the description down below in the pinned comment. And while you're down there, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. Hide the video in the YouTube mobile app. And yeah, again, all your support means a lot to me, as always. And I will see you all next time. Until next time, my name is Mark. Never stop being yourself. Stay safe and I will see all you incredible people in the next video.